When we look back on the history of populism in America, we are going to look back on the MAGA movement as the biggest scam in American history. And the liberals were right. The MAGA supporters were had. They were.
The United States mafia government wants to build concentration camps in Gaza, relocating the local folks to places they don't like so that their original neighborhoods can be rehabilitated some other time by some other colonizer. Some Palestinians say Palestinians are not pieces of furniture to be moved around. Others disagree, saying there is fine furniture on all sides. Some also say Palestinians have emotions and attachments. Others disagree, saying they are human animals. Still others insist no one has learned anything from the history of colonialism and genocide, despite the fact that later on, everyone will always have been against it. Continuing with the exact same story, New York Mayor-elect Mamdani condemned the language used by demonstrators outside a Brooklyn synagogue sale of stolen land in the occupied Palestinian territories. He also condemned the land sales as illegal. Duh! He was immediately condemned for endangering Jews who were exercising their biblical right to seize land from resident infiltrators. Efforts are underway to ban all protests at synagogues, which would bring peace to those inside trading in stolen goods, and generally to those engaged in the continued obliteration of Palestine, which never existed and soon won't again. The FF word was banned from the Unclimate Con in Belém, Brazil, but there were enough indigenous and low-lying country people present that the COP also had a lot of, what's the word here? Cops. Oil addicts at the COPOUT 30 decided in the end to look for another planet. At least that's the interpretation of dissenters who decried the banning of any mention of the causes of climate collapse. Fossil fuel lobbyists may not have set the conference closing fire as an emblem of how humanity can survive in a world aflame. We don't know. But there's still a door leading out to SpaceX or whatevs. When Americans lose their jobs, they get unemployment payments totaling 36% of their previous income. In Sweden, it's 70%. Plus national health care. It's hard to be racist against Swedes, so let's sum up the angst like this. Democrats had the chance to bring the country up to snuff and refused. Enter Trump, who tariffs the living daylights out of ye old working class. You can't win for losing, whatever that might mean. In the ongoing MAGA-cide of America, Kash Patel has repeatedly appeared on Holocaust Denier podcasts. Secretary of Offense Pete Hegseth is on record declaring, "We want our nation to be a Christian nation," and the EPA has decided that greenhouse gases are cool. I mean, logically, if life on Earth ends, then the Holocaust never happened, and all the right people and animals will be raptured. Right? Either way, 100 coal plants, some ungodly number of godlike chemical plants, basically all plants, except plants, applied for and received exemptions from EPA regulations, which opens up a third way to govern emissions. Regulated, but exempt. Kind of like what happens when the greatest president ever gets the most felony convictions ever. Things are changing in the classroom. Teachers are steering away from controversial discussions like, why is Trump violating the Constitution? Ethnic studies are a problem because they criticize settler colonialism, otherwise known as America, otherwise known as Israel. Oh, for the simpler days, when we hadn't heard of settler colonialism, or the Trail of Tears, or Sykes-Picot, or unions, etc. Transgressing teachers are sometimes caught by student vigilantes who chafe at being told that MAGA stands for white supremacy. It makes them feel uncomfortable. One should never be uncomfortable. especially in a graduate-level course which precedes entry into the workaday world where you should never be uncomfortable. President 8th grader insulted 2 female journalists for daring to be journalists. One was called insubordinate, which all journalists are by definition, and the other was called piggy, which many presidents are. He moderated his tone when speaking about the journo's company, calling ABC crappy and threatening their license. Apparently, only he can have license. He also said Seth Meyers suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, an ailment the CDC considers caused by vaccines. The Oil and Coal Department has attacked the climate, again, logically, since one must destroy the other in the end, and also today. The department's new report reports the following factoids. Factoid, a term originally meaning something that looks like a fact, but isn't. Sea level rise is stable, CO2 is good for plants, and global warming is exaggerated, and also good for the planet. Follow the logic. We should destruct more, not less. Destruction is the handmaiden of profit. I mean, look, farms in Greenland. El Salvador has moved to equalize society, removing term limits on the presidency to match the lack thereof at COPOUT. And indigenous Mayan women in Guatemala who were kidnapped and raped 40 years ago by local fascist patrols supported by the U.S. government have successfully prosecuted their attackers, who may or may not serve their sentences, as funding for the women's lawyers has disappeared into the USAID Trumpist rat hole, thus bringing U.S. support of fascism full circle. Look for that information in a museum not near you, but rather in some other more pre-fascist country. Reporting from Trumpistan in the foothills of fascism.